wonderful. But not in the village. Just hated that too much. We went there, we learned to endure it. Just eat. Very tough. East African cannibals. At least, well, the crocodiles next door on the hills, they were found to. They will shoot you with a poisoned arrow from behind. The Toposa will at least look you in the eyes as they spear your heart. Yeah. Son Eric's faces cannot see it. That's because he sees Eric. They don't question him on what exactly he was doing. But I still for. I don't think that. No. He might, but I don't know how to do it. But you were in training. Are you still? I know training. Yes. Company seed company was adamant that they and Wycliffe together with them they were cooperating very closely. They said that they wanted to. You need to get ready.
I'm just getting ready to make sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you just
check
make sure.
Clear.
This is Brian. He will introduce you.
Yes, that's right. Helga and Onesmus. Yes, I know
Yeah.
Onesmus. Yeah. Okay. We're supposed to start in this 12 minutes. Well, I guess let's go ahead and start. We are here in this session on the benefits and ethical considerations in using complementary theoretical frameworks to guide Bible translation. That's a mouthful there, but yeah, title there. With Onesmus. And Onesmus is a Bible translation consultant with Pioneer Bible Translators, and he has a PhD in translation studies at Africa International University. Let me go back. These things are a little slow here. And Helga Schroeder, who's a professor at AIM, also Africa International University, formerly at Nairobi University. Okay, welcome.
Hello. This is a joint project, and it really developed out of the question. I bring you back to the first lecture we had, to the first Beekman lecture we had, where Professor de Jong really showed the difference between instrumental and contextual. And we at Africa University of Nairobi, we are trying to introduce theories of translation, linguistic theories that can be used for translation. And our desire really is that students, when they get out of our institution and start their daily work again, that they use some of the concepts. My experience, unfortunately, is that some of those who are well trained, they go back in their daily life and in their daily work in Bible translation to the instrumental practice. So, and because we all know theory and practice is our translation studies, part theory and part practice. So we would like to introduce the benefit of using theoretical frameworks. And in our classes, when I'm teaching, for example, cognitive linguistic, I let them always try to apply them to their mother tongue, to their L1s, to African languages. So they can test the theories already in the classroom. And this paper has developed out of it, but the content is all from Onesmus.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you for choosing to listen to this presentation. The topic, as you can see, those who are seeing the screen, is benefit and ethical considerations in using complementary theoretical frameworks to guide Bible translation. We begin by discussing the benefit of using theoretical frameworks, because as Prof has said, we see people learning about theories, but then when they go to the field, they don't apply what they learn. And therefore, we're going to look at the benefits. After that, we're going to look at the theoretical frameworks, looking them as using the metaphor of the lenses. Then you apply it. You give an example of how you can apply those theories in translating Kitharaka figures of speech. Kitharaka is my language, my L1. And finally, I'm going to conclude by discussing the ethical considerations. As you use these frameworks, what should you be aware of? What should you think about? Well, I would like to begin by asking ourselves, why do we need a theoretical framework to guide Bible translation? One is they will guide in decision-making. And as you use the theories continually, you're also training the translation staff. Instead of using intuition every time, translation involves a lot of decision-making about the style, the mode, the base translation to use. So you have a guide, and this one can come in form of a theory that will guide you through. Number two, it ensures consistency in the text. If you are using either theory or two, every time you need to make a decision about maybe key terms, about the style, you use one of them, and therefore there will be consistency. You will not have a key term rendered one way and another, the same term rendered a different way along the same book or the same text within the project. The other one is it bridges cultural gaps. Some theories, like the Scopus theory, like ethnopragmatics, like the relevance theory, focuses a lot on how you have to appreciate the target culture so that when you translate a text, you know that it's a cross-cultural communication. So those theories prepare the translator to be careful and to take that in mind so that when they produce a text, it will be culturally relevant. And finally, is a yardstick for evaluation and quality assurance. Theoretical frameworks provide some guidance on how you're going to evaluate the text that you have translated. And therefore, having one, if you're using maybe one like a Scopus theory or relevance theory or several combined, and of course, in our proposal is at least, not more than two, then you just refer to them to guide you on how you're going to evaluate your text. As I said, we compared theoretical frameworks to lenses that you use to observe phenomena. In this analogy, we're identifying some three similarities between the lenses and a theoretical framework. One of them is focus. lenses always will focus on specific details while filtering out others. In the same way, a theoretical framework will emphasize certain aspects of the standard. For example, if I look among the cognitive-based linguistic theories, I would say like the cognitive grammar, we emphasize more on how linguistic structures and code conceptual meaning, while other theories like the relevance theory will come in to look at the pragmatic details on the contextual meaning. And may I give a disclaimer here that while we talk about some theories and not about others, we are not explicitly or even implicitly trying to imply that these theories are better than others. We just chose them the way we would have chosen others. Another aspect, other than focus, is limitation. Very closely related to the other point I've discussed about focus, is that lenses have limitation. Some lenses will allow a certain light to pass through and others will not. Indeed, some lenses will allow, when you look through at some lenses, you may see the color of the lens on whatever you're looking at. If you look at a white paper using lenses that are colored green or red, you are likely to think that the white paper is green or red. So there is some inference that comes with the lenses also. So there is also, when you carry on that one to the theoretical frameworks, because some of them will focus more on the nuances of the language, and others will think about the cultural aspect concerning regarding the text. Each theory has its own limitation. And this one links us to the third factor, complementarity. If you use many different lenses to observe phenomena, you'll be able to see different facets of the same phenomena. In the same way, when you use different theories, which have different strengths and they have different abilities to focus on different aspects, of course, you have more comprehensive, in-depth understanding of the phenomena or the standard, and you're going to maybe do a better job. That is our argument. Now, because of this, we recommend that it's possible you try to use at least two. And the following few minutes, I'm going to look at examples of figures of speech translated into Kitharaka using at least two theoretical frameworks. As I said again, we chose some theoretical frameworks, not because we are saying they are better than others, but because we chose them. We're going to use conceptual metaphor theory and relevance theory to interpret metaphors. And we're going to use cognitive grammar and relevance theory to interpret irony, and cognitive grammar and relevance theory to interpret metonymy. According to Lakoff and Johnson, metaphors are not merely figures of speech. They reflect underlying cognitive structures. In other words, when you are thinking about a metaphor, we are trying to understand one conceptual domain in terms of another. We have mappings where you have the source domain helping us to understand the target domain. The source domain is mostly concrete and very familiar. And then the target domain is in most cases abstract and complex, and it could be unfamiliar. So when you have a metaphor, you are using the familiar domain to understand the complex and maybe the abstract domain. And the proponent further say that metaphors are not only the way we talk, they not only show the way we talk, but they show how we perceive, reason, and act. That is why we have a metaphor like time is money, which is very common among the Westerners. Sorry to use that. And this one shows how they behave. They keep time a lot. And I'm counting on my professor here to hold me not to overspend time, because she knows time is money. As opposed to the African counterparts who use time for relational, they can create time. If something is important, they'll create time for it. I can quote Professor Bibi, who says, we are because I am because we are, and if anything has to do with us, you can dispense everything else and just come and do it. This difference in opinion is captured in adages and proverbs like the Swahili proverb, haraka, haraka, haina baraka, which can be rendered hari hari as no blessings. Or even the Tharaka proverbs, Nkinyampora ikundagarawa kemba, which means the one that walks slowly drinks the water when it has already settled. Please allow me to give a little background of this. When animals are drinking, when it rains in Tharaka, waters correct around in pools or in seasonal rivers. So animals graze and then they are taken to drink at around noon, from noon to 1 there when the sun is quite hot. And then animals are taken almost at the same time from the whole village. So they go rushing into the river, and because there are many and the waters are not so much, they mandate by stepping on it and doing everything that you can imagine animals doing on the water. And so the water becomes muddy. But there could be a few animals who walk slowly because they are old. But by the time they arrive there, all the other animals have gone and the water has settled, so they drink when it is clean. The moral of it is Africans, we think about times in terms of character building, patience, resilience. Yeah. Now, may I give the example of interpreting Psalms 23 verse 1. Please allow me not say Adonai Rohe. I may not begin there, I may just do with the English bit. The Lord is my shepherd. This one from the conceptual metaphor point of view, we have two domains. We have the source domain, which is the shepherd, and the target domain, which is God. And therefore, there is this mapping. We have the shepherd, which is the concrete known domain, having these qualities, protector, provider, guide, restorer, companion, comforter, caregiver. And that is now taken to mean superimposed on God. We say, God is the shepherd, our Lord, the Lord is the shepherd, therefore he is all that. Now, may I briefly again talk about how the relevance theory will look at it? The relevance theory will take this one. When you hear that metaphor, it prompts the hearer to infer the meaning based on what they know, that is what they have in their mind, and especially what they shared between the speaker and the hearer. So it prompts the hearer to construct context-specific and whole concept of shepherd, one that includes probably caregiving, guidance, vigilance, provision, just to mention just but a few. And then from there are those imprecatures that you draw from that, that God is personally involved, he offers comfort, he guides, and he provides. Now, applying this in Kitharaka, I used both the CMT, that's the conceptual metaphor theory, and the relevance theory, and I combine the two, I come up with this. what is in Kitharaka's mind about shepherd? One, it takes care of the sheep. It takes the sheep to drink. The shepherd direct the sheep, protect the sheep, discipline the wayward animals. It is not a must that he is the owner. He might be an employee, and that is mostly the case. He can be punished if the sheep gets hurt. He cannot make major decisions. Of course, he cannot lay down his life. Now, with that in mind, how would you render it? There are two options. You can say, the Lord is the one who shepherds me. Or I can say, the Lord is my shepherd. The recommended is, we say, the Lord is the one who shepherds me. Because the other one, if you say the Lord is my shepherd, it might include the meaning that he is my employee, whom I chiefly hired to come and look after my sheep. And therefore you lose that meaning that the Lord takes care of you personally and he leads you and protects you. If you take, you look at irony, like go and cry out to the gods whom you have chosen, let them save you in the time of your distress. This is irony. And from the cognitive grammar point of view, looking at Langaka 2008, he says meaning is conceptualization. So meaning is the way speakers mentally construe situations. Although Langaka has not said a lot about irony, some of the other proponents like Danziger and Tobin talk of irony as a viewpoint or a construal effect. And therefore, when you look at it from that point of view, you see that there is a clash between what is said and what is meant. You allow me just to rush a bit. From the cognitive point, from the relevance theory point of view, again, we look at it when a person hears a statement like this, that God saying, go to the idols that helped you. One, he interprets it as an echoic statement. The speaker has saying something, but he has dissociated himself from it. And therefore, combining the two, and I'm sorry I've not taken you through so well for you to go with me, but brief you me that the Kitharaka speaker would better say it like, ende dhini bukarire ngai irabo ethurire ka yeingi na ikabutethia rirabo kunyamara. Now go and cry to the gods which you have chosen for yourselves. And then what follows is a particle that conveys attitude. This one you get it because of analyzing using the two theories. And we have many articles in the particles of Kitharaka in Kitharaka that communicate attitude. Then looking at metonymy, I'll briefly say that metonymy is looked at just like a metaphor in cognitive grammar, but the difference is we have an intradomain mapping. We are comparing things from the same domain. And number two, we are not comparing things that look alike, but you are comparing things that are very close. There is contiguity. And here when you have this statement, they are Moses and the prophet, let them listen to them. The decoding method, I mean the process of getting what they are saying, you are not looking at whether they are similar, but because they are close. That when you talk about Moses, you are talking about what he wrote and what he did. When you're talking about prophet, again, is about the scriptures. And then there are those frames that you assess. Using relevance theory, metonymy is also seen to, you are when you hear metonymy, you are reminded of something. You are called upon to look at the assumptions that the speaker knows you know, and then you follow that line. And sorry, I have to add a bit. The rendering would have for this is Aduanyokwe bali na maandiko mamusa na iroria mamui mobo baterie bodoma bomadikira. Your brothers have writings of Moses and prophet. These are the ones you're supposed to read and obey. This captures the idea that scriptures alone are authoritative enough without being proven by science and miracles. These are the ethical considerations you need to take into account when you are using theories. One is faithfulness to the source of the source text. B, we need to be careful not to over-adapt. Number two, we should be sensitive to the source culture. You cannot just substitute anything when you're adapting. Maybe in a culture where they don't have sheep, they cannot say, instead of saying Jesus is the Lamb of God, and you cannot call him a sacrificial pig, because we know that pig was not accepted for sacrifice among the Israelites. The other one is be consistent and coherent. When you are using the theories, don't, for example, use functional approach, functional equivalence in translating the Gospels, and then come to formal equivalence when you're doing Psalms and you're doing the same project. Finally, know that the Bible is a sacred text. The message therein was written by men who are moved by the Holy Spirit. The translators must aim for accuracy and faithfulness to the original message. They need to approach the text prayer-free and reverently, seeking the guidance to convey God's words, the message that he has given very faithfully, seeking the spiritual illumination of the Holy Spirit. And finally, brethren, as you do this work, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about this. Many of you in this room have been working, have been translating many years. You agree with me that translation is not only linguistic and cognitive, but it's a very spiritual affair. We should know this and live it. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
My language is Luo, and the word shepherd was used for people who are not schooled, not learned. Actually, people who are just strangers. You get somebody somewhere and you bring him to your home and he becomes a shepherd for you. So if you want to abuse somebody, you say, Okanja Kwadi, I'm not your shepherd. So, and yet it is a motif which is used from Genesis to Revelation. The Lord is my shepherd, and then I'm the good shepherd. So it becomes very difficult for my community to deal with the concept of shepherd, as opposed to yours that has got some dignity. How do you deal with that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I can say something that, with the key terms, when you are thinking about key terms and the motifs that run through the Bible, sometimes you cannot just ignore them. There's a way, sometimes, even some terms may have bad connotations, but with time, there is a way you wash, may I use that metaphor, you wash the terms until they become acceptable. I'm saying this, for example, in our culture, it's just like yours, that shepherds are not taken to be very respected, but then people know that they treat the sheep very well, the animals. The animals benefit a lot from them because they protect the animals, they guide them, they feed them. as long as you have not said he is my shepherd, and you see he's the one who shepherds me, some people will see that you are significant. But yes, I'm not claiming to give a very good answer, but some terminologies come and people get used to them over time. And I can throw back to you if you need to say something more about that, you can. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yes, among the theories you have mentioned and potentially others, are there some that in your personal work of translation you have found maybe more noble, more pure, or more helpful than others? Which ones have helped you with what and why? Maybe you can expand a little on that in your personal experience.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to say, yes, there are some that I've used more than others. And they have worked for me on my situation. And I believe the others that can work for others, even though they never worked for me, they may work for other people better. May I say that the ones I've used, I've experienced them, and I know how they can work. However, I don't want to claim that those other that I've not tried will not work, because maybe I don't understand them so well. But these ones I've used here, the cognitive grammar, relevance theory, a bit of scopus, I've used them, but I cannot say the others. I don't have examples of that which doesn't work. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Onesmus. Excellent presentation. My question is thinking about training local translation teams and translators who are new to translation. What do you think about using some of these theories or training people in theories, or at what point in their sort of professional development as translators or formation as translators do you start introducing formal frameworks and theories?
Okay. Thank you. May I draw a little from my experience, and I can see other very experienced translators here, and consultant who can weigh in that. We've seen Professor Andrew coming in, Rodrin.
I'll say this question before I ask you a question.
You're welcome. Now, I have trained a few translators in my 20 years of consulting and CIT. And one thing I can say is you simplify information. I may not come and start talking about the cognitive principle of communication or communication principle, those ones. I just simplify. There is a material that was developed a while ago by Helga, Martin Schroeder. And there was another one based on relevance theory developed by Ernest Good. They were based on relevance theory, and they simplified it to a level that people can understand. Even secondary school graduates could get the principles. Therefore, I would say this to respond to your question is, as long as the people understand the language well that we are using, if they are college students, they would be good to be explained the basic principles that they can apply in translation. Yes.
So thank you very much. I really appreciate your work very much. This is great. One of the things that I've been thinking recently about these approaches to metaphor is that they're still linguistic approaches, and that when they're applied to the Bible, I'm often missing something of the exegetical depth that we might get from more traditional biblical commentaries and so on. So, for example, in the Lord is my shepherd example, we know from biblical studies, everything that you've said is very helpful, but what's missing is that extra kind of layer of meaning that we get from biblical studies that tells us that shepherd was in the ancient Near East a common metaphor for a ruler or a king, and I believe we have it in Gilgamesh and in other places, which you didn't mention, understandably, because you were looking at it linguistically in terms of what is a shepherd. But if there were that other layer also mentioned, then you would have a whole other set of associations and connections and syntagmatic and pragmatic relations of what the king is, together with it. And I was thinking, can I think of another good biblical example? Because I don't want to just talk about shepherds and kings. So I was thinking of leaven, for example, in the New Testament when it talks about yeast. That yeast, you may go into all the associations of yeast, but actually it's very closely associated with teachings, with the world of teachings, and everything that would then be connected with the idea of teachings. So I wonder if you could comment about that relationship of this kind of linguistic research that you're doing on metaphors, and then also kind of different levels of what we get from normal exegetical work on the ancient Near East and biblical background.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prof. That is very insightful. Well, I began by apologizing and saying that I will not begin by saying, using Hebrew, that Adonai Rohe, because I knew I would have taken a little bit more time than I planned to do. And yes, I agree. You cannot just look at the language. You need to dig deeper. Exegetical research is important. You need to dig into the original culture, what the word meant, what the very particular, that Hebrew word meant in their context. That's very important. Yeah, we need to incorporate it. Point taken. Yeah.